You're not gonna believe this. Like, actually, I heard God's voice, like, audibly, out loud. I heard him, like, speaking to me in my ear, and not just, like, in my head or, like, in my heart. Like, I know what that sounds like. I've been listening to God, like, in my head and in my heart for, like, the past 4-ish years. This was not that. He had, like, spoken audibly to me, like, with an out loud voice that I could hear directly in my ear. Twice in the same, like, 2 hours. It was so cool. It was so cool, and it caught me off guard, like, both times that he did it. So first off, his voice carries so much power, and it sounded so familiar and paternal to me, even though I had never heard it before. It just came across with so much love and so much clarity and just overall power. That's the best way I could describe it. And man, my ears just felt all, like, tingly, I suppose. Like, the best way I can describe it is that it feels like my ears have been deafened, or like my eardrums have been blown out, but no, I can still hear perfectly well. It's just like, it's like God's opened my physical ears to just be able to hear him clearly without anything in the way. This was all during our worship night that my youth group does, like at the end of every month. During that first bit of worship night, you know, the first song, we're just seeking his face, singing out all these songs of praise to him and worship, and just that beautiful connection with him. That first song was really powerful because we went off into like 4-ish, probably 7, let's be honest. It's like a long period of big spontaneous worship where we're like prophesying, breaking chains, and like having that freedom. And like we're singing things like beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, like how God is just transforms. That whole bit of spontaneous worship was really beautiful, but somewhere in that, I just heard God so clearly say my name, like in my left ear, just so clearly. It caught me so off guard. He was just like, Abbie, like, huh? Excuse me? Who is there? Like, I had actually, like, wide-eyed turned to my left to see if, like, someone was actually there saying my name. That's how clear and real it was. But no, it's just like Jared over there playing his guitar, Faith in the back playing her bass. Both are so focused on worship. Like, no one was there. Like, what is this? It wasn't a voice that I recognized. So the only logical conclusion there, like, that is God's voice. It was not one that of any of the other people's in the rooms. And man, and it sounded so familiar even though I'd never heard it out loud before. That was just 100% God. I can tell you with that for certainty. At the same time, like, right as he said my name, my whole being felt awake. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, he had just awoken my entire being to reality. Like, this is reality, that we get to love on him and just be with him and sing him songs of praise and worship and connect with him. Like, he had just awoken my entire being to the fact that that is the life that I get to live, that I am not trying to seek his presence, but I am already in it. I am living that reality, that I'm already right there with him. It was such a sudden shift in the mood around me as well. Like, God's presence around me went from me enjoying his presence and love and like feeling rather weary, of course, because, you know, long day, I was tired. I went from just that weariness and that, like, just enjoying his love and the thickness of it around me to all of a sudden, like, it was still, like, complete total stillness around me. And I had felt light, like all of my weariness was gone in that moment. Like, all of that heaviness and everything else was just gone in that moment. Like, my whole being had snapped awake to, like, this total peace that just surrounded me in that moment. Like, there was just such a pure freedom in my entire being that nothing else can really describe. There was so much freedom, there was so much peace around me and within me too. Oh man, it was just such a beautiful, tranquil moment where I felt like nothing could touch me in that stillness, in that emptiness. And it was so surreal. Just that surreal stillness and the full peace of his presence was so cool to just be in. Worship from that point on didn't feel like I was striving to seek his face. It didn't feel like I was like seeking him and trying to like push into his presence and just be there with him. No, it was so obvious that I was already found by him, and I had already found him as well. Like, he was right there with me. He very clearly and audibly called me by name. He was already there, and I felt his presence so strongly beside me, like on my left side, that rest of the night. And it felt a lot like I was just having a face-to-face conversation. Like he had very clearly taken down all the barriers around me and was just right there with me. I could just tell him everything so openly because he was already there with me. But that was such a beautiful kind of opening to just be with him, man. The second time I heard him say my name was actually in my right ear this time, which is wild. Like I heard him in both ears really audibly and clearly that worship night. And I so clearly heard him whisper, "Praise my name," in my right ear. And what made this one so cool is that I could feel like the physical sensation of someone whispering in my ear. Like that breath, you know when you whisper, bah, 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 I felt that in my right ear. Like that's God's voice right there. And it was the same voice that I heard at the beginning of the night when he just said my name. Like that's, it threw me off so much because I was just focusing on worshiping him, right? But it was so clear. He just so clearly spoke to me in that my right ear. And you bet I just continued praising him, like just continuing lifting his name up like he told me to, so you bet that's all I'm gonna do. Just worshiping him even harder in that moment after I heard him, like let's go. He told me to do it, so you bet I'm going to. Yeah, the peace and stillness of his presence that night was just total freedom and peace in a way I've never experienced it. Like it was emptiness, but in a good way, you know? Very much God just pouring everything out of me, and just I got to be right there in his midst. It was so beautiful, and it was such a different kind of encounter with him that I've never had before. But honestly, that's like all the more reason to love that specific encounter even more. Like not only did I audibly hear his voice, but I experienced just the full stillness of his presence, which was so freaking cool. Like I love God so much. Honestly, praise God that he loves me enough to reveal himself to me in these beautiful ways. Oh yeah, I just really wanted to share that because that was so cool. I've always wanted to hear God's audible voice, but man, I didn't think it'd be like that. I hope you enjoyed hearing this little story too. And like, let me encourage you, keep pressing into God's presence because he shows himself in beautiful ways that you would not understand. God bless you. Have a good day. I don't know if you can tell, I'm like reading this off of a laptop over here. No, you don't see this. What are you talking about? This isn't real. This is so obviously right here. I just need my words so I can remember what I'm saying.